Hello, and today we are going to be starting the city of Aspen Ridge because Willow Creek is still having an existential crisis, and I do not feel like dealing with that at the moment. So first, we're just going to buy the tiles that the game normally gives us. We have to buy them again just because I have 529 tiles, and sometimes I like to start off with only a couple tiles and then be able to unlock the whole map later on. Now we're going to build an organic grid fronting the lake because it's the most prominent feature of the landscape in this area. An organic grid is sort of a grid, but it also comprises of a lot of curved roads and different orientations. You can see here that the block that I'm building now is going to be a different size than the block next to it. That's fine. Organic grids are organic, so they don't have to be completely uniform. They just can't be like random road spaghetti. What I usually do when building these is find the landscape feature I'm fronting and then just build along the contour lines so that it looks a little more realistic, and also gives us a few orientations of the grid to work with. It's also important to keep the roads usually intersecting at 90. What I'm doing right here is just making sure that this road goes through because we're going to convert it into a couplet. And now we get to deal with the game's zoning grid glitching out, because of course. And now we're actually going to finish that couplet, which is just that parallel set of one-way roads. And then we're going to connect that up to the highway and give the people some city services so they won't whine at me. First, we're just going to zone some northeastern commercial, except nope, that is not. I always forget which of the region packs has the weird commercial zoning. It seems to be the northeastern one. And here we need to do the path trick to get the zoning grid to work again. We're going to make sure that the lot depth is consistent here. Now we're going to put in some residential. Except right here, we're going to replace that with commercial, actually. I like commercial to be fronting, like commercial and offices to front the major roads. Just because that's where all the traffic is going anyway. Then we're just going to redo this area because it kind of broke a little bit. You always need to make sure to not monozone entire grids because there's only like one or two assets and like a few slight variations for each lot size for each zoning type. So if we just did entirely North American residential, the entire city would have like the same two houses over and over again, and that would look weird and unrealistic and just boring. So we always need to make it a little more diverse. Now that we've unlocked Tiny Village, we're also going to add some townhomes again just to make the area look a little more diverse and interesting. And also maybe this area is in the process of densifying, or maybe it was more dense and has slowly been converted to low density. We're going to put in some trees that the city appears to have been sort of cut into a forest. We might add more trees around the city at some point later, but not today. Also going to add in a small elementary school. We need to get rid of this massive interchange. The devs need to chill with these. Like, this is a city of 700. We don't need this much of an overbuilt highway. Now we're going to violate the land agreement that our city has with the state and just build a highway outside of the boundary. And we're just going to change this into an intersection so that it actually makes sense at all. The slip lane's also probably unnecessary. It's just I usually add these with intersections with highways just because when two major roads intersect, they usually do this. Also going to neck that down to 2 lanes and add a dedicated left turn here. Next we have to fix the intersection in traffic so that we don't have crazy U-turns or anything like that. And of course add a traffic signal. Now we're going to add sort of a road wear surface, which will just make it appear that the lane markings have been worn down over time, be it because of weathering or people driving over them. And we're just going to make this surface within reason near the intersection. We're also going to extend that down to the couplet a little later. And it seems that I've covered the road or the grass and asphalt, so we'll have to fix that. Although that does look like a nice gravel surface compared to what the game has, which is more of a sand surface, so we could use that at some point. Now we're going to extend that surface down towards the couplet. We're going to end just a little after this intersection here. Now I'm going to add some lane markings here so that it makes more sense and is a little more realistic. And we're going to add some hatching so that it's extra clear that people need to stay on their side of the road. And then we're just going to be filling in some zoning as demand increases. I'm also going to add a medical clinic and some more trees, of course. There are already parking lots along this couplet, so we don't need on-street parking. And since this Piers update broke my game for a month, we are going to use it, and we're just going to add a little fishing pier. And then more zoning along the waterfront. Of course, more trees. Also going to add some parks. Actually, here I have an idea. We're going to have some low-rent housing up against the waterfront. And we're just going to have like 2 buildings and a little bit of parking. Actually, it seems that these can go to 3x5 instead of 2x4, so we're going to do that instead and then fix the low density zoning right here. Also at a fire station, because you can see that some people have burnt down their houses. And then to help pay for that fire station, we're going to add a wind turbine so we stop bleeding money. Traffic here needs to chill, so we're just going to add a lane. And then here we're going to add a road going along the lake. And then in Road Builder, we're basically going to make one of the new parking roads, except just with the 90 parking on one side. I'm just going to call it 2-lane road, parking 90. Now here we're going to make a little beach. So first we have to make a reasonable slope for it, and then just add the sand surfaces. We also need to get rid of all the trees here. And then add some of the wet sand. Now to keep the beach from looking weird, we're just gonna fade out the sand. And also make sure to do that on the other side. Now we're going to add some blankets so that this place actually appears to be used. Unfortunately, all of these have food on them, but I guess people bring food to the beach, so it should be fine. And some chairs. Parasols. We're only going to add these to a couple because not everyone brings an umbrella, and then we're just going to put some chairs without a blanket and give them a parasol as well. I'm going to use these tennis umpire chairs for lifeguard towers, and then we're just going to use recolor to make them actually make sense. Close enough. And of course we need to give the people some porta potties, which we're just going to all change to this gray color here. And some zoning along the beach. Let's also add some invisible walking paths so that people are able to actually move around the beach. Alright, so here we're actually going to cheat. When you make a park area normally, it doesn't do anything, but if you extend it out from the existing park, you can make a large area function as a part of that park. So if we just extend this area here, the entire beach will be part of this playground in a way, and so people have an incentive to come over here. And with that, we're done. So here's what the city looked like before, and here's what it looks like now. And I had a lot of fun building this one, so this series is definitely going to continue even after I get Willow Creek working. It is still very broken. The assets, I think I can figure out a way to fix that, and then there's a ton of issues with the economy. We're bleeding money, so I'll have to do a lot of stuff off camera for that. Or if you want an episode for that, I guess you can comment that below, although it probably won't be very interesting. If you have any suggestions for this city or just my content in general, you can also comment for that. I do read the comments, so I'm open to suggestions. If you like this video, then, well, there's a button for that, and if you enjoy the rest of my content, then you can subscribe so you can get notified when I make something else. And with that, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.